In 1944, as the war in Europe dragged into its fifth brutal year, Nazi Germany still held most of the continent in its grip, from the beaches of France to the forests of Eastern Europe, and both sides understood that the conflict was approaching its final act because the Allies were preparing for the most dangerous military operation in history, a return to mainland Europe, and Adolf Hitler knew it too, which is why he became obsessed with defending every inch of coastline under German control, ordering engineers to build the Atlantic Wall, a massive defensive system stretching from Norway to southern France, filled with concrete bunkers, machine gun nests, artillery batteries, anti-tank obstacles, minefields, radar stations, and underground command centers, all designed to stop an Allied invasion dead on the beaches. But while the wall looked terrifying, it had a fatal flaw. Germany could never defend everywhere equally, so the key question became where the Allies would land. And this is where the real battle began. Not with bullets, but with lies. The Allies knew that if German forces were waiting in full strength at the real landing site, the invasion would be slaughter, possibly losing the war in a single day. So they decided to fight a secret war of deception to mislead Hitler about where the invasion would occur, launching Operation Bodyguard, the largest deception campaign ever attempted, and within it, one of the most brilliant sub-operations, Operation Fortitude North, a plan to convince Hitler that the main Allied invasion would strike Norway instead of France. Hitler had been obsessed with Norway ever since Germany invaded it in 1940, because it controlled access to the North Sea, protected vital shipping routes, and secured the iron ore shipments from Sweden that Germany desperately needed to fuel its war machine. And he believed that if the Allies captured Norway, Germany's northern flank would collapse, opening the door to a devastating Allied push into the heart of Europe. So he stationed more than 300,000 troops there, elite mountain divisions, coastal artillery units, air defense regiments, and armored formations, soldiers who could have been defending France, soldiers who could have been waiting in Normandy, soldiers who could have stopped D-Day. And the Allies knew this, so they built their deception around Hitler's own fears. At the heart of Fortitude North was a fictional force called the British Fourth Army, an army that never existed, but that Hitler fully believed was real, complete with fake corps, fake divisions, imaginary commanders, and invented unit histories. And to sell the illusion, British intelligence created entire ghost camps across Scotland, setting up rows of empty tents, inflatable rubber tanks, wooden aircraft, fake landing craft, supply depots with empty crates, and even vehicle tracks carved into the ground to simulate troop movement, while radio operators transmitted non-stop fake communications, entire conversations between officers discussing logistics, supply shortages, training schedules, discipline problems, and invasion timetables, all carefully scripted so German intelligence would intercept them and believe they had cracked Allied plans. British officers were instructed to talk loudly in public places about Norway's freezing climate and mountainous terrain. Fake maps of Scandinavian coastlines were left visible in offices. Soldiers were seen training in cold weather gear and mountain warfare, and everything was designed to be overheard by the wrong people. But the true genius of Fortitude North lay not in fake equipment, but in human manipulation, because British intelligence had captured or turned almost every German spy operating in Britain, and instead of arresting them, they used them, turning them into double agents, feeding them carefully crafted misinformation to send back to Berlin. Reports of massive troop concentrations in Scotland, secret briefings about an upcoming invasion of Norway, sightings of transport ships being loaded, fabricated invasion dates, and invented orders that perfectly matched what German reconnaissance aircraft believed it was seeing. And because these agents had proven reliable in the past, German intelligence trusted them completely, never suspecting they were being played. The deception grew deeper as the Allies planted false documents that were intentionally leaked through neutral countries like Spain, Portugal, and Sweden, suggesting that Allied forces were preparing for a Scandinavian assault, and all of this perfectly aligned with Hitler's own paranoia. So he believed every word, ordering more troops north, strengthening defenses in Norway, and diverting critical resources away from France. Now, at the same time, Operation Fortitude South convinced Germany that the main invasion would strike Pas de Calais rather than Normandy. So by early 1944, Hitler believed two things with absolute certainty: that a massive Allied invasion was coming to Calais, and that another invasion was coming to Norway, while Normandy barely appeared on German threat maps at all. And because of this, Hitler locked massive forces in place, refusing to move them even as evidence mounted. Behind the scenes, the deception became insanely detailed, with fake radio networks operating 24 hours a day, scripted arguments between commanders, messages about fuel shortages, troop transfers, hospital evacuations, disciplinary cases, and resupply requests, entire divisions moving across Scotland on paper, while supply ships were loaded that never actually sailed, and German intelligence intercepted everything and believed every word. Then June 1944 arrived, and D-Day was just days away, but German High Command was still waiting for the Norway invasion, and when June 6th came, and Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword, German commanders were stunned. But even then, Hitler refused to release his armored reserves because he believed Normandy was just a feint. The real invasion was still coming elsewhere, so he froze his best units in place, waiting for the attack on Calais and Norway that never came. And German field commanders begged Berlin to send reinforcements, warning that the Allies were breaking through. But Hitler hesitated for days, then weeks, still convinced the main assault had not yet happened, because Fortitude was still running. Double agents continued reporting that Normandy was only the first wave, and that the real invasion would hit Calais any day now, while others warned that Allied forces in Scotland were preparing to sail for Norway. And Germany waited and waited while the Allies poured men, tanks, artillery, and supplies into Normandy, building an unstoppable force. By the time Hitler finally realized the truth, it was too late. The Allies had broken out, liberated Paris, and shattered German defenses across France, and Operation Fortitude North had done its job perfectly, pinning down more than 300,000 German troops in Norway without firing a single shot, preventing reinforcements from reaching Normandy, buying the Allies crucial time to secure their foothold, and changing the course of the war forever. And even after the war ended, many German generals admitted they truly believed the Allies had planned to invade Norway. The deception had been flawless, and this wasn't just trickery, it was psychological warfare, a battle fought with lies instead of bullets, proving that Hitler built walls to stop tanks but never built a wall strong enough to stop deception. And in the end, the greatest weapon the Allies used wasn't a bomb or a gun. It was belief, because Operation Fortitude North proved a terrifying truth. You don't have to destroy your enemy's army if you can control their mind. And that single deception may have saved tens of thousands of Allied lives and shortened the war by months, possibly years, showing the world that sometimes the most powerful weapon is not firepower, but imagination, not force, but manipulation, not violence, but deception. And that war is not only fought on battlefields, but inside the minds of leaders who can be convinced to destroy themselves with their own decisions. This grand illusion was further reinforced by the visual deception units, who placed fake wooden airplanes on fictitious runways across the Scottish Highlands, while Royal Air Force planes dropped aluminum foil strips known as window to confuse German radar into seeing ghost fleets moving toward the Norwegian coast, a tactic so effective it caused the German 20th Mountain Army to remain on high alert for an enemy that never appeared. To deepen the lie, the Allies arranged for fake diplomatic leaks through Swedish channels, requesting information on Norwegian railway gauges and harbour depths for humanitarian relief, which German spies quickly relayed as evidence of an imminent landing. Even the legendary General George Patton was used as a pawn, his mere presence in various locations used to suggest the mobilization of massive strike forces. While in the north, the fictional General Sir Andrew Thorne was publicly highlighted as the commander of the non-existent Fourth Army because of his personal history with Hitler, knowing the Führer respected and feared his tactical reputation. Every detail, down to the fake obituaries of imaginary soldiers printed in local Scottish newspapers and the staged accidents of military trucks carrying empty crates labeled Norway Extreme Cold, served to cement a reality that existed only in the minds of the German High Command, ensuring that when the liberation of Europe finally began, the most vital German reinforcements remained trapped in a frozen wait for a battle that would never be fought. This strategic masterpiece extended into the very atmosphere of the North Sea, where the British deployed specialized sonic warfare units using powerful loudspeakers on small launches to mimic the low-frequency thrum of massive troop transports and the rhythmic splashing of thousands of oars, creating a ghostly maritime soundscape that terrified German coastal sentries in the dead of night. To ensure the German intelligence service, the Abwehr, stayed firmly on the hook, the Allies utilized the London Control Section to coordinate special means, which included the use of notional units, military formations that existed only as rubber stamps on forged documents. And these units were given distinctive insignia and shoulder flashes that were accidentally seen by neutral diplomats who would then report the sightings to German attachés in Stockholm. The psychological pressure on Hitler was amplified by his own OKW advisors, who, fearing his legendary rages, often tailored their intelligence reports to match his preconceived notions about a Scandinavian strike, creating a feedback loop of misinformation where the German leader was essentially being lied to by both his enemies and his own generals. The sheer scale of the logistical fakery involved in Fortitude North required the construction of entire dummy fuel depots in the Scottish lowlands, where local civilians were often confused by the sight of hundreds of pristine trucks that never seemed to move, and soldiers who spent their days painting snow camouflage onto vehicles in the middle of a mild spring. This commitment to the bit was so absolute that the Allies even went so far as to print and distribute fake Norwegian English phrasebooks to troops in real training camps, knowing that German spies would inevitably find discarded copies and view them as the smoking gun of an impending occupation. Even the weather became a tool of war, as British meteorological leaks suggested that the North Sea conditions were becoming optimal for a crossing, further tightening the knot of anxiety in Berlin. The double agent known as Tate, a Danish-born spy who had been successfully turned, played a pivotal role by sending highly technical reports regarding the supposed Sky to Narvik shipping routes, which were backed up by intercepted naval signals from the home fleet that had been carefully leaked via the ultra-cryptographic channel's reverse influence operations. As the D-Day landings progressed through June and July, the deception did not slacken. Rather, it intensified as the fictional Fourth Army was reinforced by American units on paper, suggesting that the Normandy invasion was merely a sideshow designed to draw German reserves away from the true prize of the Norwegian ports and the Swedish border. This caused the German High Command to maintain the 15th Army in the Pas-de-Calais and the massive garrison in Norway even after the Allies had established a firm toehold in France, effectively paralyzing the German military response during the most critical 48 hours of the war. The shadow of the Fourth Army loomed so large that German planners continued to account for it in their defensive maps as late as August 1944, long after any hope of a northern invasion should have vanished, proving that once a lie is sufficiently complex and caters to a leader's existing biases, it becomes a truth that no amount of contrary evidence can easily dispel. The thousands of tons of concrete poured into the Atlantic Wall and the millions of man-hours spent guarding the fjords of the north were ultimately rendered useless by a handful of radio sets in a Scottish basement and a collection of inflatable tanks, demonstrating that the ultimate victory in World War II was secured not just by the courage of those who stormed the beaches, but by the cold, calculating genius of the men and women who convinced the enemy to wait for an army of ghosts while the real world changed beneath their feet forever.